Hello everyone, today we will embark on a special journey, where fishermen on the high seas not only face the waves, the scorching sun, or the harshness of nature, but also participate in a dramatic hunt to pull up from the ocean floor giant lobsters, precious treasures that the sea has bestowed upon mankind. Imagine you are standing on the deck of a sturdy ship, surrounded by the vast blue sea, the soaring seagulls and the endless sound of waves. And right now, we will witness every thrilling moment when the fishermen cast their nets, pull their nets and face the surprises that the ocean brings. Early in the morning, when the sun has not yet risen, the sea sky is still immersed in a dark blue darkness. The fishing boat is ready. The ship's lights were shining brightly like a mobile lighthouse, illuminating each sunburned face, each calloused hand quickly arranging the net, checking each thick steel mesh to ensure that no lobster could escape. The engine roared. The whole ship shook and slowly left the port. The fishing village gradually disappeared behind, giving way to the endless sea before their eyes. In the salty morning breeze, everyone took a deep breath, because they knew that they were about to embark on a long journey, where each catch would not only bring wealth, but also determine the survival of their families. Lobster fishermen often have to go far from shore, to deep sea areas, where the seabed is jagged with reefs and corals, where this crustacean hides. When the ship entered suitable waters, the work began. Large nets, woven tightly with strong rope, were spread out across the deck. They are specially designed with meshes large enough to let small fish escape, but small enough to hold strong lobsters with large claws. The bait is cleverly placed inside the net, usually fresh fish or squid, giving off an attractive scent, causing lobsters from afar to smell it and come closer. A loud shout goes up, "Let's drop the net." And so, meter by meter of heavy nets are dropped into the water. They slowly sink to the bottom of the sea, dragging along dozens, hundreds of buoys tied to the water surface to mark their positions. The scene is both majestic and beautiful. Kilometer-long nets like giant arms reaching down to the deep sea, waiting for the moment of harvest. The job seems simple but requires absolute precision, because just a small mistake can cause the whole net to be swept away by the waves, or stuck under the reef, causing heavy damage. Once the nets are dropped, the waiting begins. This is the most difficult time, because the fishermen have to be patient for hours, even days, for the lobsters to crawl into the net. In the vast ocean, time seems to slow down. They take the opportunity to patch old nets, clean the deck, or simply lean against the side of the boat, watching each wave roll. But in their eyes, there is always a light of vigilance, because at any moment, the signal to pull the net will ring, signaling that the exciting moment has come. And then, when the time comes, the captain gives the order to pull the net. The whole ship seems to wake up. The sound of the winch roars, pulling each meter of heavy net from the deep sea. The fishermen stand in line, ready with iron hooks to remove each piece of net. From under the water, a dark shadow gradually appears, silver streaks sparkling in the morning sunlight. Then suddenly, a giant lobster, with a claw as big as an adult's arm, appears, struggling violently in the net. Cheers immediately rang out, drowning out the sound of the waves. Everyone quickly grabbed it and brought it to the deck in indescribable joy. But that was just the beginning. The more they pulled the net, the more lobsters were pulled up. Some weighed tens of kilograms. Their bodies covered with rough shells, mixed with green and red. Their long antennae continuously whipping the air. They struggled fiercely, making resounding, clack-clack sounds. The fishermen had to use thick gloves, ropes, and years of experience to control them. The deck quickly turned into a lively battlefield, where people and lobsters struggled every minute. Every time a large lobster was brought up, the atmosphere on the ship exploded. Laughter and cheers echoed across the vast sea. Sweat beaded on the sunburnt faces. But in the fishermen's eyes, there was an indescribable pride. They know that each lobster not only has great economic value, but is also a testament to their hard work, perseverance and close bond with the sea. The ship's hold is gradually filled with lobsters. The smaller ones are sorted separately, while the giant ones are placed in tanks of seawater. To keep them fresh. The sound of their claws hitting the walls of the tank, clack-clack, constantly echoes. Like a strange background music of the trip. On deck, the salty smell of the sea mixes with the smell of fresh lobsters, creating a unique flavor that only those who have sailed at sea can feel. However, the work has never been easy. There are times when the net is heavy not because of the fullness of lobsters, but because they are entangled by seaweed and reefs. Fishermen have to work hard for hours to untangle them. Sometimes their hands are scratched. Blood flows and mixes with the salty seawater, but no one complains, because they have been used to this harshness since they were children following their fathers to sea. For them, the sea is both a strict teacher and a generous mother, and only perseverance can help them receive precious gifts. When the sun is high in the sky, the waves sparkle like gold. The deck is filled with baskets of fresh lobsters. Fishermen take the opportunity to eat a quick lunch right on the deck, white rice with dried fish soup, a few slices of pickled radish, and a little strong tea. But no one cares about the simplicity of the meal, because the greatest joy is seeing the results of their work struggling to life right before their eyes. And so, day after day, the nets are lowered and pulled up again, bringing with them many surprises. Sometimes there were just a few small ones. Sometimes there were dozens of giant ones. enough to fill the entire hold of the ship. Each time, the ship was filled with laughter and cheers, and in the fishermen's hearts arose an endless belief that no matter how harsh the sea was, they would always be brave, resilient and indomitable warriors, attached to these vast waves for their entire lives. After a hasty lunch on deck, the fishermen returned to their usual work. The giant nets were ready to be lowered again. The heavy ship turned, the bow cutting through the waves towards the reefs deep under the sea, a place considered a hidden paradise for lobsters. The captain kept his eyes on the nautical chart and the navigation device, determining the exact coordinates to ensure that each time he dropped the net, there was a chance of a bumper catch. The thick ropes were pulled taut again. Each meter of net was slowly lowered, swirling in the dark blue water, the sound of the iron chains screeching, the sound of the winch rattling, all mixed with the sound of the waves to create a bustling melody of labor. On deck, everyone's eyes were focused, their calloused hands carefully tying each knot, to make sure that the net would work as they expected. For fishermen, each time they cast their nets, it is like casting a hope into the sea, and they always wait for the moment when that hope is pulled back. To fill the boat. The waiting time is a quiet moment between the urgent rhythms. Some people take the opportunity to lie down, eyes half closed, letting the waves lull them into a fitful sleep. Others sit in small groups, sipping strong tea, chatting animatedly about their families back home, about previous trips, about the legendary nets that once pulled up hundreds of lobsters in a day. But no matter what they do, their hearts are always turned to the sea, watching every small change on the water's surface. A school of small fish suddenly jumps out of the waves. A seagull flies low to the sea surface. All of these can be signals that there is an unusual movement below. At the right moment, the captain gives the signal to pull the nets. The whole boat immediately wakes up. The atmosphere of urgency spreads. The winch roared. Each heavy net was pulled up from the sea. At first, there were only patches of seaweed. A few small fish stuck. But then, a red-orange light flashed under the net. A giant lobster appeared, its claws long and large, thrashing vigorously, making a series of clacking sounds. The fishermen cheered, quickly using iron hooks and strong hands to bring it onto the deck. And it didn't stop there. Other lobsters appeared one after another, some as big as an adult's arm, some nearly half a meter long, each one alive, struggling. fiercely. The deck quickly became a bustling scene. Large plastic barrels were prepared, filled with seawater to keep the lobsters alive. The fishermen carefully put each lobster in, listening to the sound of its claws clacking throughout the hold. It was the sound of success, a testament to perseverance, ingenuity and determination. No one paid attention to the sweat rolling down their cheeks, no longer cared about the scratches on their hands. All that remained was the joy as the spoils of war gradually filled up before their eyes. But that joy always came with challenges. There were times when the lobsters were too big, too strong, struggling so much that they tore the entire net. The fishermen had to be quick-witted, holding on tight and finding a way to fix it right in the middle of the pull. Sometimes, the whole group had to join forces, one holding, one tying, one using an iron hook to control a giant lobster that was thrashing wildly. Each struggle was an uncompromising battle, where humans and the ocean clashed, and where the fisherman's unyielding will was always tested to the utmost. In the afternoon, the golden sunlight spread across the vast sea, reflecting the sparkling drops of water splashing from the net when it was pulled up. The scene was both majestic and poetic, but for the fishermen, that was the most tiring moment. Arms were tired, backs ached, hands were blistered, but no one gave up, because they understood that each net full of lobsters was a hope, a source of food for the whole family back home. When the sun set, the red sun gradually sank below the horizon. The boat was filled with the warm light of the end of the day. The fishermen sat together to eat a simple dinner, rice with shrimp soup, a little salty braised fish. The cheerful laughter echoed over the sound of the waves. In that moment, the ocean, though vast and harsh, also became familiar, close, like a common home. At night, the ocean put on a mysterious black coat. The sky full of sparkling stars stretched endlessly. The boat was brightly lit with dozens of high-pressure bulbs, casting a magical light on the water. That light attracted countless marine creatures, and lobsters were no exception. They crept towards the net, were seduced by the smell of bait, and quickly got stuck. The fishermen continued their work, pulling the nets, harvesting, regardless of time. In the vast night, the cheers, the sound of shrimp claws clicking, the sound of waves lapping, all blended into a magical song of the ocean. There were moments when they stopped, looked up at the sparkling starry sky, listened to the wind blowing, clearly feeling the smallness of humans in front of the vast universe. But also in those moments, They felt stronger, more resilient, because they knew that they were continuing to write the endless story of the sea profession, a story of sacrifice, courage and the desire to conquer nature. By the time dawn came, the deck was filled with baskets of fresh lobsters. Everyone was exhausted, their hands were shaking, their eyes were sunken from lack of sleep. But their eyes still shone with joy. They lay on the deck, using their coats as pillows, letting the wind and waves lull them into a short sleep, ready for a new day full of challenges and hopes. Dawn broke over the ocean. The sea surface gradually dyed a brilliant pink-orange. The lobster fishing boat gently rocked in the early morning waves. The fisherman, tired after a long night of work, only had time to sleep for a few minutes, then jumped up as soon as the whistle signaled the time to release the nets. Their eyes were still sleepy, but there was no lethargy in them. Instead, there was a determined look, because they understood that a new day meant a new opportunity. On the deck, the bustling atmosphere spread. The nets were checked again. Each tie was tightened. Each buoy was adjusted neatly. The person in charge of bait had prepared dozens of boxes of mackerel, fresh squid. Each piece of bait was cut into small pieces, giving off a strong fishy smell mixed with the smell of sea salt. All was stuffed into the bait compartments in the net, so that the scent could spread strongly under the deep sea, enticing the lobsters hiding in the crevices of the rocks.